All right, you're looking at potentially the top 25 here. We'll get to it in just a moment.
Nothing's really changed to top, except DeSoto moved up a spot.
You got a new number 5. Or top 5.
Yeah. Went from 4 to 3, moved up 1. Battle of the Beltline now. It's a big rivalry, and DeSoto look pretty good.
All right, we are live on Facebook, or you could be watching us on Max Preps. We're decked out in our Touchdowns Against Cancer shirt, as it's it's coming to the end towards the Touchdown Cancer campaign. Get those pledges in just the month of September. All right, that is Zach Poff. I am Steve Montoya. We're taking your comments as we're talking about the new Xcellent 25 rankings presented by the Army National Guard. And Chris, let's bring back up the new top 25. Zach, who's new this week?
We got 3 new teams in here. You see 23 through 25, DC Power, St. John's. They are back in after being out for a week after that IMG loss. Very good win against a very good team in Good Counsel, one of the top teams from Maryland. The boys from Warren Central out in Indiana jump in this week. Jersey Power, Bergen Catholic also in. Not a lot changed. DeSoto went from 4 to 3. They just switched spots with Mater Dei. I thought the win against Cedar Hill was good enough for DeSoto. Cedar Hill was a team previously ranked in the top 5 to begin the year, and then they were in the top 15 before their second loss of the season that potentially just dropped them out of the rankings this week. But DeSoto in at 3 now too. But I still think 1 and 2 are clearly the top 2 teams in high school football with Bishop Gorman and IMG Academy.
There's a big game coming up. We'll get to that here later coming up this week. Got some comments already coming in. Eli, hello. Hello, Stacy in South Carolina. We got you covered there. Texas, yes, Texas is repping right now. Go Alamany, the Warriors, DeSoto. Definitely, we're going to talk about them. Let's begin with that right now because DeSoto made a statement there in Texas.
Yeah, they did. And, Battle Beltline, one of the biggest rivalry games. Sean Robinson was just, they could not stop him. He threw for nearly 300 yards, had a rushing touchdown also. K.D. Nixon, the guy that took this one to the house right there, he was a big-time factor in this game. He had a couple of touchdowns also, but Emmett Perry also was big-time. But Sean Robinson, kind of like Tate Martell, he just does a good job being able to extend plays, and the defense was huge also for DeSoto. They forced 3 turnover on downs, had a couple of big-time goal line stands that really proved to be the difference in this one. DeSoto, 33, Cedar Hill, 18. Emmett Perry also had a big game. He got a touchdown right there. He had a game-high 154 yards receiving. Big-time win for DeSoto and Coach Peterman and his boys. I mean, the Eagles were definitely soaring last weekend and probably the biggest win of the weekend.
All right, some more comments here. Jay says Texas all day. We just
hard to argue that,
And somebody said, hey, why don't you guys come see some teams out in South Carolina? That's not right. We'll head out there for sure.
Let's go.
All right, Bob, hi from Pennsylvania. Hi. All right, let's get to a few more games here, but first,
we're getting a lot of highs today. I like that.
I like that too. It's a great way to
better than why isn't East in the rankings?
Yeah, that's right. Well, we'll talk about that soon. Let's pull up the rankings one more time here as we see somebody saying good to see Trinity back in the mix. We'll get to them here in.
Hey, they won 70-0 last week also too, so
that's pretty good win.
It's solid.
And Mater Dei seems to be a hot topic right now. Now Mater Dei, right? They're number 4. You see them sitting there, and if they get through their league.
Yeah, Trinity League is arguably the toughest league of high school football.
And then they get through the Southern Section playoffs, and then they get to a state championship and win that. That's a pretty impressive road. You could see maybe Mater Dei rising.
And don't put me on the spot just yet. We'll wait till all that happens.
Eric is asking that.
We'll wait till all that happens, Eric, and we'll go from there. But hey, I don't know if there's been a more impressive high school football player than JT Daniels this year. He's thrown for nearly 2,000 yards and has nearly 30 touchdowns. And they've played 5 games.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, I need him on my fantasy team. 0-3.
You need a lot of help. All right, you see number 11 there, Miami Central. Let's talk about them real quick.
Yeah, Miami Central, big-time win. You get a look at James Cook right there, the younger brother of Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook started the day off Saturday, rushed for nearly 300 yards. Little brother wanted to have a little fun, too. But this play right here, Steve, was the play of the game. 16-14, Booker T just scored late in the third quarter, and Cord Jenkins takes this one 88 yards on the kickoff return, and that led to 26 unanswered points for Miami Central. They pulled away from Booker T Washington 42-14, and hey, Booker T is a team that showed how good they are early in the season. They knocked off St. Thomas Aquinas, and you get a look too at Willie Davis IV there. He had a 94-yard touchdown run right there. Miami Central just made the plays, and defense was huge also for Miami Central. They got a lot of stops on Booker T Washington. They held Daniel Richardson to a mediocre game, had a couple of big interceptions on them. Miami Central, man, they're moving on up, and they jumped up a couple spots to 11 this week, and they're definitely a team that is a team to watch out for in Florida. And at the end of the day, they're going to be right there with IMG Academy and St. Thomas Aquinas as one of the best in the state. And they're also going for a Miami-Dade County record, 5 consecutive state titles. Their record of 4 is tied with Booker T Washington also. So I mean, they're big time.
All right, the Rockets looking good for sure. All right. Christopher says, let's pull back up those rankings real quick if you don't mind, Chris. He says, big game this week, Cass Tech against Detroit King out in Michigan.
Yeah, both teams 5-0. So this is kind of bragging rights for the city of Detroit. And Cass Tech, though, they've just been firing on all cylinders. Donovan Peoples-Jones, the #1 wide receiver in the 2017 class. He did it all last week. He had a pick six, a fumble return for a touchdown, and also caught a touchdown. So I guess we'll call that the hat trick of football.
That's right. All right, Cameron says California.
Yeah.
Well, you got 3 California teams there in the top 25.
Yeah.
Gary says Alabama. You see an Alabama team there at number 18.
McGill Tulane, though, big win. They just won their 14th consecutive game, and they dominated on the road against Blount out in 8 Mile, Alabama. Big time win to kind of revenge that only loss they had last year.
All right, then we got a question. What's up with Katy? Well, Katy's lost a couple games. But Katy, I know Katy, the team out in Texas. When the playoffs, they'll be all right.
Katy might be able to sneak back into the top 25, but they started the season 1-2, and usually the defense is lights out for Katy. Just hasn't been the case this year for Katy. But with Coach Joseph, they'll be all right. They'll be all right.
All right, and then finally, before we get to another game here on our list, Angela says, "Go Bethany." We got you covered. All right, let's get back to number 23, St. John's, familiar face here.
Yeah, they're
familiar team, I should say.
Familiar face, familiar team. Big time win last week against Good Counsel, and Tyree Johnson right there, just big time game. And on offense, they're running the rock very well last week. Keelan Robinson had 140 yards rushing, and this was one of his 3 touchdowns. St. John's, man, this team is loaded with a lot of talent. And Shane Lee, #1 inside linebacker in the 2019 class, showing off his versatility there, pick 6, and 39-22 win against a top 5 team from the state of Maryland is nice for St. John's. But hey, things don't get any easier for St. John's. They get to take on #9 DeMatha this weekend.
That's a big one.
And everyone's talking about, Aquinas and Gorman. This game is just as big kind of when it comes to national implications, especially for DeMatha. This would be a big win for those boys. And, hey, we get to find out who the best really is in the DMV area.
That's right. All right, couple more shout-outs here. Hawaii representing.
St. Louis is getting close to that bubble also with Tua Tagovailoa, the Alabama commit. He's been just balling this year for St. Louis. Kahuku was in the rankings until they lost to Bishop Gorman, but they're kind of getting close to that bubble also.
All right, PA getting some love here. We saw a Pennsylvania team on the list as well. Florida, baby.
Yeah, St. Joseph's Prep, Philly Power also. They're big time.
Okay, all right. Let's get into, before we get back to the comments, let's get into a couple of the new teams coming in. First, let's start with number 24.
Yeah, 24, you got Warren Central, and we'll run some highlights of David Bell. Man, this kid is a big-time wide receiver. He's been making plays all season long. Now, last week, they beat Pike 66-14. All David Bell did was ball for 4 touchdowns. And he's showing why he's the #1 player from Indiana in the 2019 class. He's the top 10 wide receiver also among all sophomores. And, Warren Central, they're 5-1 this year. And, they were minutes away from beating undefeated Cincinnati Power, Colerain, who's currently the #12 team in the country. That's their only loss this year. They were up 28-24 with 2 minutes left. 2017 Ohio State commit Amir Reed had a big-time punt return that resulted in Colerain kind of sneaking that one out 31-28. But Warren Central, man, these boys are big time, and it all starts with number 4 right here, David Bell.
All right, let's continue on. One more new team into the list before we get into some more comments. That's number 25 there in New Jersey.
Yeah, Bergen Catholic, a familiar face. They're usually always going in the rankings, but they made a lot of plays defensively against Paramus Catholic last week. They only won 17-14, but I was super impressed with their quarterback, Johnny Langan. This kid played with a severely sprained ankle, could barely move around. And all he did was throw for a career-high 338 yards. And you just got to love the toughness. Proved that he's one of the toughest high school football players in all of high school football. That was a huge game against Paramus Catholic. Both teams were undefeated, kind of bragging rights on the line for who's the best in New Jersey. But hey, things don't get any easier for the Crusaders. Up next is a very good St. Joseph regional team, too. So, they're in the rankings this week. The same thing that happened with Judson could happen to Bergen Catholic, as Judson ran into a very good Cibolo Steel team and lost 30-9, and they were only in the rankings for 1 week. The same thing could potentially happen with Bergen Catholic here.
Yeah, Bergen Catholic, they got a tough schedule year in and year out there in New Jersey. All right.
Still got Don Bosco Prep coming up, too, and congrats to Greg Toll, got his 300th win as a head coach also, too. One of the best to ever do it.
For sure. Nice job there, Coach. All right. We got some questions and comments coming in. Coleraine, their defense continues to shine. You just mentioned them a little bit.
The crazy thing is it's without Amir Reap, the 2017 Ohio State commit, one of the best defensive players in all of high school football. I said he was the most underrated cornerback in the country, and he's missed the last 3 games kind of nursing a hamstring issue. And they've also won a few in a row without their quarterback also being a little banged up, too. So, just a great job for Coleraine as they kind of continue to dominate the Cincinnati area.
All right, Devon has a question. We'll get to that. Waco, La Vega, we'll get to that. Zach will chime in on that here after we get off the air. Again, if we don't get your answers here right now, we'll get to them after the show for sure. Gary says, why don't you guys come out and see Miller against Neal in Alabama? We'll look
into it. Out, baby.
All right. Hey, at Todd Shirtliff, that's our photography director.
Get it done,
Hit him up. We need to get there. That's for sure.
Already lost in fantasy this week, too.
That's right. All right. Here's a good lead-in from a question about a huge game this weekend coming up. How do you see the Gorman game, number 1 Bishop Gorman, against who we had as the preseason number 1 team, St. Thomas Aquinas, flying out to Vegas?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge factor in this one is, Aquinas got to make that trip out to Vegas. And, Bishop Gorman, man, they've been big time. That guy right there, Ty John Lindsay, he returned last week. He had 2 touches, 2 touchdowns. Now, man, this is a tough game, but what Gorman has been doing this year, especially against some big-time programs, is very impressive. And all of their wins have been by double digits on top of that. Now, last week, Steve, they got their first shutout win also since 2014 against Bonanza. But St. Thomas Aquinas, a different team, and we'll roll the Aquinas highlights here too. Aquinas won 42-0 last week also against a very solid Allendale squad. And Jake Allen, man, he looked really good. 2017 Florida commit. And Allen's going to need to have a big game, though, against Bishop Gorman, a team that has arguably the best defense in the country, led by a couple of Ohio State guys, Palais Gayototi, and also Haskell Garrett, and 4-star safety Bubba Bolton. It's going to be a fun one, man. But I think with Aquinas, though, another guy they need to step up is 5-star wide receiver Trayvon Grimes, also committed with the Ohio State Buckeyes.
All right, big one for sure coming up this week. Some more comments here. How come no New York teams in the rankings? New Rochelle, they're looking good out in New York. So
yeah, they're right there, kind of getting close to the bubble team. There's so many high school football teams. It's so hard to get them all in.
Yeah.
But hey, Utah, I got East in the bubble teams this week. Another big win for you guys, and they're moving on up. So I was getting blasted a little bit last week, but I'm watching out for you boys out there in East.
All right, somebody asked, you see number 3, number 14, if they do meet in the playoffs, how do you see that one playing out in Texas, DeSoto and Allen?
Man,
tough to say right now.
It's tough
because see more games.
It's funny with Allen, man. Year in and year out, they're always a big-time program. Talent-wise, though, I think DeSoto's got the edge there. So it's going to come down to what most football games do, and that's turnovers. and big plays. And right now, DeSoto has been doing that a little more. Allen, big-time win against McKinney-Boyd, though. McKinney-Boyd, not a big-time team, but we saw Allen early in the season as they beat Hoover and one of the top teams from Louisiana, too. So Terry Gamble's done an outstanding job in his first season calling the shots for the Eagles. Both
All right.
the Eagles, I guess,
yeah,
right?
That's for sure. All right, Larry says, what up, guys? What's up, Larry?
What
How
up,
you
Larry?
doing? Somebody says Miami Central should be in the top 5, scoring 45 points or better every game. They could get to the top 5.
Well, they did score 42 last week, so if they would have got 40. No, I'm joking. But, Miami Central is right there. They're soaring up. And James Cook, one of the best talents in all of high school football. But the week before, they only won 29-27, too. So sometimes, things aren't always going well for Miami Central, but they did find a way to win that game, too.
All right. T says no Don Bosco. Well, they could get back in. They got some big games coming up.
Yeah,
We've seen Don Bosco hovering around.
Yeah, and Don Bosco, they started the season out pretty slow and finally got that win last week for Coach Toll, but they did start the season 0-2, so.
Yeah. Hard to have a 2-loss team in a top 25
I mean, Cedar Hill's arguably a top 25 team, but in my opinion, if you have 2 losses, I think there's other teams that are either undefeated or 1 loss against a top 10 team that deserve to be in. And those games weren't really close, too. Both, double-digit scores, so.
All right, we're going to keep it going here. Oscar says, look, Mater Dei, and another guy, Leland, also said this too.
Leland
we'll leave it at who that is. But they say that Mater Dei has not
soft schedule
so far.
But
so when they play someone like Corona Centennial, watch out.
But at the same time, Mater Dei, they might have a soft schedule. But when you're at 42-0 at halftime, you're still proving you're a big-time team. And, you see teams all the time that might have a soft schedule, but they walk out with, a 10-point win. Mater Dei's winning by 50, 60 each week, so.
Yeah. Starters not playing a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And JT Daniels, man, he's arguably the best quarterback in the state, too.
All right, Ron, Biggie, thanks for the love. Right back at you for sure. Autumn says Friday Night Lights, DeMatha, St. John's. Yeah. We already talked about that. We'll get to that, too, when we talk about the biggest games coming up later on in the week. Definitely up there for sure. All right, we're going to close out this segment of our rankings. We see more comments coming in. Zach or myself or someone from Max Preps will definitely chime in and get to your comments and questions.
Be nice.
Be nice. Go ahead and be mean to that guy right there.
Bring it on, baby.
That's right. All right, that's Zach Poff. I'm Steve Montoya. Thanks for breaking down the rankings with us here on MaxPreps.com.
Tack.